Hello, hello. I am so excited to have my photographers here this morning. You guys, I have a soft spot in my heart for all of y'all, and I am so excited to be speaking specifically to your use case today. Let's dive in, shall we? So, my name is Mac. If we've not had the chance to meet before, it is so lovely to meet you. Hopefully, we've been able to meet previously. I'm part of the product education team. I'm the product evangelist here at HoneyBook, and I run all of our live education webinars like this. So if you've come to one in the past, we've probably met before. It's good to see you again. Otherwise, I'm happy to have you here for the first time in one of my sessions. It is wonderful. So quick agenda for you guys. We're going to be going through, first off, what all new members should know, regardless of if you're a photographer or not. Obviously, all you guys here today are photographers, but I want to go through what all new members should know about HoneyBook. Then we're going to go through the 5 areas to understand, prioritize, focus your energy on as you're setting up your account. Photographer-specific use cases we'll be tossing in there, but we're really going to go through the 5 areas of your account that you need to kind of get solid, get down pat before you can really start successfully using it for your business. So we'll just talk through those different prioritizations and tools. And then, as I mentioned, we'll be doing 10 minutes at the end for questions. So do use the Q&A section in the chat as well. Little additional context for you guys about me. So I've been working here for 6 years. That means I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of photographers. I also was a bride last year, which is crazy. It feels like way longer ago. So I obviously went through that whole experience of hiring a photographer, working with a photographer. We also are a big photography family. I'm actually doing a shoot on Sunday. So this is all to say I've been on both sides. I've been on the business side working with you guys for years, and I've been on the client side receiving the services, getting that experience. So I'm going to be coming to you today with all of that knowledge and all of that experience, as well as my HoneyBook expertise. And we're going to make sure that you guys are feeling super confident when you leave here today. Okay? Let's dive in. So we're going to start off, as I said, with what all new members need to know when they're starting out with their HoneyBook account. Okay, first things first, we're going super basic here, you guys. What is HoneyBook? What even is this tool? You might know it as a photographer-specific tool. We actually serve a broad audience. So HoneyBook is a client flow management software. That essentially means that we're helping you create, track, share, and organize all of your client communications from very first inquiry through the end of the job. Okay, so what does that mean? HoneyBook is not. We don't manage those pieces where you're nurturing people before they're inquiring with you. Once they're inquired, that's when HoneyBook steps in and starts to help you manage that relationship and all of your communications, right? So that includes scheduling, invoicing, contracting, even collecting payments, okay? So those are some 4 kind of little teasers of some of the amazing tools we're going to explore today. But I want you guys to know kind of what you've signed up for here, right? Like, what is HoneyBook? So that's kind of our core of what we're talking about and what we're going to be offering to you as someone who uses the system, okay? The next thing to know here is our complimentary account setup. I want you guys to know that this is available to you. When you join and pay for a subscription with HoneyBook, we immediately reach out with a pop-up window. It tells you to upload your materials. We also send out an email asking you to upload your materials. So what that means is we'll receive or we'll take any of your contracts, invoices, pricing guides, welcome guides, portfolios, questionnaires, any of those files and file communications really that you use throughout any point, like we talked about, inquiry through the end of the project when you're communicating with your clients. So we'll take all of that information from you and we will set it up inside your account on your behalf, okay? It takes us about 3 to 5 business days. I think with the new influx of Cyber Monday and Black Friday, that deadline might be pushed out a little bit to sit more like 7 business days. Bottom line, we're probably going to do it a little bit faster than you will. who's trying to run your business at the same time as you're doing all this. So let us take some weight off your shoulders, right? So that's the point here. The next piece, obviously, as I'm talking about the complimentary account setup, some of you folks I know are out there going, but Mac, I'm just getting started. I don't have those materials for you. I don't have a contract. Oh, am I doing something wrong? You're totally fine. Okay, no problem. We have resources for you too. Okay, account setup is really for those folks who are established and they really need to transition, right? And that transition period can feel a little challenging when you're trying to run a business. If you're someone who's just starting out, you don't have that challenge, right? So you're going to be starting a little bit more from scratch, just like you would anywhere else. But in HoneyBook, we actually offer an amazing template gallery that's going to help you hit the ground running either way. Okay, so I would really recommend, and we'll explore it a little bit later, really recommend exploring the incredible template gallery, if for nothing else, just as a source of inspiration so you can hit the ground running and feel super confident. Okay, let's get into it. This is the exciting stuff. I know I'm going to be throwing a ton at you today. So we've really got to dive in ASAP here. Okay, so we're going to be really the theme of today's message. You're going to hear me like a broken record probably. We're going to be talking about how to prioritize your time, right? Anytime you're setting up in a new system, you're wondering, but where do I start? But how do I prioritize? What's most important? Okay, so we're going to go through a hierarchy essentially today of 5 tools to understand and set up first in your HoneyBook account. Okay, so we're going to go through 5 things. That's all it is. And maybe you tackle one of these a week. Maybe you tackle the first 3 in the first week. You can prioritize your time however you want, but I am going to be walking you through the order by which I personally, again, with all my knowledge and background, want to come to you guys and say, this is really the order that is best to set it up in, okay? And we'll go through not only what these tools are, but we're actually going to hop into a photographer-specific account and go through what it looks like, how to understand it, and where to even further kind of focus the setup of your account. Okay, so the first thing here is super simple. We're just going to be talking through company settings, okay? So let's take a look at what this looks like. When you are inside of your account, you're just going to pop up here to your logo or your profile picture. You're going to come on down to company settings, and right off the bat, you're dropped into your company branding. Okay, so you can see your business name, you can edit that, choose your company type, all of this information. And as we scroll down, it's showing us our branding elements. Okay, so I want you to spend some time here setting up your button colors, your logos, your kind of default header image. And it's showing you as you plug these kind of components in, it's showing you how those plug and play into the HoneyBook system, right? So if we're looking at a file or a project, this is a glimpse at what it might look like based on those elements that you upload. Okay, so play around here, make sure those brand elements are looking right. And then the next piece I want you to work on is setting your company theme. The reason we want to do this is because later when we go to set up our templates, whether we're setting them up from scratch or using a template from the template gallery or anything, setting your company theme here is going to indicate to HoneyBook, hey, this is my default branding. Anytime I go to create a file, I want this to be my jumping off point. I want all my pages to have a white background. I want all of my buttons to be brown. I want my text to be black. I want it to look like this. Okay, so when you click customize company theme, it's pulling up all of your font options, and it'll again show you an example here on the right-hand side of how that kind of plug and plays into the HoneyBook tool once you set it up. Okay, you can also upload your own fonts here. So if you've worked with a brand specialist or someone and they have like a branding kit, that'll be super easy to just translate over into this company theme here. So you're going to have everything looking really seamless. This is basically just, again, setting that kind of default branding for specifically file creation, which is, I think, our 3rd step that we'll be going through out of the 5 tools that we're exploring today. Okay, so set this up first. The next place you're going to hang out is under this preferences tab. So first stop, company brand, second stop, preferences. This is where I want you guys to spend some time editing some lead sources, editing project details. But most importantly, if there was just one thing you were going to do here in terms of editing the preferences, I would want you to hang out in the project types. So this is where you're going to be editing the types of services you offer. Okay. So this is super important. You might be here today and you might be a niche photographer. So you only do weddings, but you have 6 different packages that you offer. You have gold, bronze, silver, platinum, whatever, all these different packages. That is more likely what you are going to put here rather than only putting wedding or engagement, because you're a niche photographer and your kind of breakdown of services comes more into play as your clients book specific packages with you. You might be a photographer who's on today's session and you offer milestone, maternity, family, weddings. You do it all. You do pet photography. You've got everything in there, right? So that is going to be more like what we're looking at here, more accurate representation of this list, right? We've got corporate, event, family, engagement, senior, portrait, all these different options, okay? So depending, again, on your focus area, let's say you're a niche pet photographer and you have, 1-hour sessions, 5-hour sessions, day in the life. We don't know what you do, but you do. So you're going to spend some time hanging out here in the project types and making sure that these reflect your accurate kind of offerings of what you do. This will come into play later on, but that's why I want you to focus your energy in editing those project types first, okay? Always good to just really quickly review the different email notifications and triggers that happen here, especially the payment reminders. I always recommend keeping these on. In terms of actions, I typically recommend keeping these toggled to off, just because the automations tool itself has much more robust capability and can do a lot of these same things. So I typically recommend just keeping these toggled off, at least to start out and maybe revisit in a couple months. And then all of these company notifications are things that HoneyBook will notify you of. So just quickly review these and make sure they look good and they're reflecting your branding and your business the way you want it to. Okay. The last piece in the company settings that I want you to touch on is your bank details. So I want you to do this first, sooner rather than later, essentially, because once you start invoicing your clients, which is basically where we're going to end today's session, once you start invoicing your clients, HoneyBook needs to know where to send those funds. We need to know where you want that money to go, and your bank details is how we know where you need it to go. So do that sooner rather than later. There might be some hoops you need to jump through in terms of looking up your EIN and all that kind of business stuff that ends up feeling daunting and takes some time. So do it before you have a payment waiting in limbo land, basically is what I'm saying. If you do it sooner rather than later, when you go to, today we're going to be spending a lot of time in the pre-work, right? A lot of the stuff we're going to be going through is before you get to interacting with your clients. We're going to spend maybe 5 minutes at the very end where it's like, okay, you've done everything you need to do. Now it's time to communicate with your clients. This is one of those things. Okay. So set up your banking so that when you go to invoice your clients, you're confident, you know where those funds are going, and you feel like you're totally set up for success. Okay, let's pop back into our agenda. We just went through the company settings, things we talked through our company brand, preferences, and bank details. Okay, in terms of your company settings, those are the 3 things we'll want you to set up. The next piece here is going to be scheduling. Okay, so let's pop in a HoneyBook and go through this. I know I teased to this a little bit earlier. So set up your company settings first, and then you're going to go into the scheduling tool. So scheduling is great to help you get your sessions in the books, right? You get an inquiry, kind of a typical photographer client flow, right? So you get an inquiry, they're asking about pricing and availability, right? For the most part. This is where the availability piece comes in. Your scheduler is going to show them, display to them your availability so they can choose the time that works best for them. Weddings are a little bit trickier, right? Because that's a full day thing. So you'll probably just want to, I know most photographers will like hop on the phone at some point. You're having email exchanges. It's not really something where you're just going to send a scheduling link, because that's a little too impersonal for the ticket price that a bride might be paying, right? So you're going to have a little bit more of a personal interaction. This is more for maybe your milestone sessions, your mini sessions, those kind of more straightforward things. You've probably maybe worked with the client in the past, they're coming back, and you just want to allow them to kind of go through your availability and book on their own. Okay, so to take a look here at what an example might look like, so in this example, we have multiple different sessions. So we've got not only our intro call for our brides that we might be chatting with, where it's a 30-minute call, so she can still use this to schedule time with you. We also have a 2-hour milestone session, and we have our 30-minute mini sessions. You can add as many session types here as you'd like. The idea is that each session has its own link that you can share out with a client. When you share out that link with them, this is just a brief overview of what it might look like. I think in this example, I have my mini sessions set up to be operating this weekend, the 10th. So no other day is available. The 10th is available, and I've got all my different time slots here for someone to choose from. Okay, so this is just a quick glimpse at what that looks like. In terms of actually setting this up, you would pop in and create a new session type. I'll just show you this example that already exists. You can choose if it's a phone call, in person, or video. So again, giving you the option for those kind of preliminary calls you might need to do with a client. Or is this a session where you're going to be in person and actually doing the shoot with them? Okay, so you've got all those options there. You can add location, time zone, how long is this meeting session going to last, 30 minutes, hours, however you need to do it there. You can add specific instructions here. So if you know all of your mini session people, or all of the people showing up to this specific shoot need to know X, Y, and Z, and you want that to be briefly outlined here, you can do so. That will be included in all of the email notifications and reminders that they get. You can control when the reminders go out. And then lastly, this is where you control your availability. Okay. The first piece actually of setting up your scheduler is making sure that your Google Calendar is connected. So I should have started there because what that's going to do is that's going to pull in your availability based off of your existing Google Calendar. So if you know you have, a family dinner or another meeting or another shoot, it's not going to double book you. It's going to pull in that availability first and foremost. The availability you're setting here is just kind of giving the system windows of time in which you want this meeting or session to take place. So typical kind of scheduling tool stuff here. If you guys use a scheduling tool already, this is not rocket science. You probably already know how this works. So this is how you would set it up. In this example, again, I've done a mini session where I'm operating. I'll be on site from 9 to 5. I'm leaving no buffers between my appointments because we're just going to go rapid fire. I don't need any minimum notice. Someone could book, my last slot on the same day if they want, because I'm going to be there regardless. And then I'm displaying the increments for availability, as we saw here, in 30-minute increments, because I want my clients to book on the hour every 30 minutes because I know my sessions are going to be 30 minutes long for my minis. Okay, I'm not going to involve team members in this. It's just going to be me. And then again, down here, I can control my confirmations. That's it. Okay, so once you've set that all up, you're going to save and finish. And now I can copy this link and share it wherever I need. I can pop it into an email template. I can pop it into a smart file, which we'll be exploring later on. Whatever I need to do, that scheduling piece is done and ready to go. Specifically for mini sessions, you guys, HoneyBook isn't quite at a place where mini sessions are going to be perfectly operating, just because all of our communications need to exist inside of HoneyBook. It's not publicly facing communication, which typical mini session use case, right? You're like doing an email blast. Everyone gets to come in, choose a time, and pay immediately. That functionality, as that is, doesn't exist in HoneyBook. I'll show you the workaround for it today. for how you can do it in HoneyBook if you want. But the first piece is making sure that your scheduler is set up. Okay. So the other piece here that I mentioned, you want to connect your Google Calendar. Okay. So that's really step number one when you're setting up the scheduler. Connect your calendar, then come into scheduling and build out your different session types. Okay. So when you go to connect your calendar, it'll have you log in here. Okay. And you've got Google, iCloud, and Outlook options, it looks like. So you can go ahead and log into those, and then everything will sync together. Okay. The next piece here that we want to be going through, we went through company settings, we went through scheduling. The third piece here is setting up our templates. Okay. So as I mentioned, remember, we offer complimentary account setup. So we will be setting up the large majority of this template section for you. So do not stress. Do not waste any time trying to figure that out on your own. Send us all of your materials. Send us your contracts, your questionnaires, your pricing guides, all of those things that you use to kind of sell your services and get booked and offboard your clients, right? All of those different files. You kind of need to assess your own process to know what templates make sense. Okay. Templates here, again, this is everything we've touched on so far. None of it is client facing until you share it with them. Everything we're doing today is the pre-work, the back end, the system behind what you will eventually show to your clients. But everything we're doing right now, even this page here, is not client facing. What we're building is kind of our baseline. When we're looking at templates, we're building our baseline or a jumping off point for communicating with our clients. So the question you kind of need to ask as you're setting up templates, and this is truly just the way templates by definition operate, right? Templates are meant to be a version of what you do, like as much work as can be done ahead of time. That's what a template is, right? So by the time you get to a client, like how much of your work is repeatable, essentially? You need to kind of sit down and assess for your business. Okay. Every new client who comes in, they want to know my pricing. And some of them know my packages and some of them don't. Okay, great. So you need to create a pricing guide that welcomes them, introduces your brand, how you operate, sets those expectations, and communicates your pricing. Because again, part of that experience is selling who you are and selling what you offer, right? So that's kind of the situation I'm talking about. You kind of need to review your own personal process. What are the things that come up, 10 times a day with every single client? That's what we're talking about when we're talking about templates. It could be an email template, right? We've got email templates here. Or it could be more kind of deeper dive into a specific file. Okay, so let's review what these files can do. I'm just going to pop into an example here. This is a template from our template gallery, y'all. If this looks good, go check out the template gallery for examples. This is a really fabulous example. So files in HoneyBook are a little bit more, I should say a lot more robust than what you're probably used to today, right? So with Smart Files, what HoneyBook, how we operate our file system, what it's going to be able to do is anything that you need it to do, and it can look any way you need it to look. That's a lot of options. That can feel a little overwhelming. So that's where you're going to come down and decide, okay, what makes sense for my process? What needs to be communicated when? How does it need to look? What does the file need to do? Because any file can have multiple pages. So for example, similar to a PDF, but it's dynamic. So your clients can actually select services. They can actually submit payment. They can actually sign a contract. They can actually answer questions. They can actually schedule time, right? Like all of this stuff can happen dynamically in one file. So it's kind of like a hybrid between a really beautiful web page and the kind of static PDFs that you might be used to with your business. And it's all going to operate inside of HoneyBook. Okay, so in this example, we've got a getting started page. We're introducing ourselves. We're introducing them to the booking process. We've got a page describing the experience, so booking and scheduling, how to prepare for your session. The day has arrived, what that's going to look like. How does image delivery and print selection work? Okay, what session types do you offer? So on and so forth. Okay, now we're getting into service selection. Okay, let's do the whole 9 yards. We've got a signature selection, or we've just got a power half-hour session. So what does your client need? You're displaying those different options. We've got some add-ons down here. You guys get the gist. This all is kind of ringing a bell, right? This is how you all operate your businesses too. Then we've got next steps. We're like, great, let's make it official. Here's your invoice where their selections will populate from the previous page. So again, really dynamic here, not just sending a pricing guide, but taking them on to the next steps if they're ready to book with you, and the ability for them to submit payment. Okay, so that's just kind of a glimpse at an example. When you're going to actually build out this file, these are the options that you'll be working with. You can add text, you can add questions, you can add images, you can have video in here, which is huge. Dividers, that's just spacing things out. You can pull in your company info block from the company branding that we just set up in the company settings. And we have different layouts and displays of this information. So if you need some help kind of formatting how you display this stuff, the layouts are a great place to start. In terms of actions, we have service selection, which we just went through. Contracts, I already teased you. We just showed you invoice and payment, and scheduling is coming very soon. So this is why I had you guys set up the company settings first. You can get your company branding down so that when you go to create a file, your company branding is already defaulted. This is why I had you set up the scheduler first, so that by the time you get to setting up your templates, it looks the way you need it to look, and it's going to be able to do what you need it to do. You can have your scheduler added in here. You can pull in your services. Again, send that stuff to concierge so they can set it up for you. So by the time you get to this file and you're kind of piecing it together to really have it feel the way you need it to feel for your client flows and do what you need it to do, all of that information is already there for you to plug and play. They can build in all your contracts. So when you go to add a contract, it's telling you, hey, here's all your contract options already, and you can just easily pull it in. Okay. So that's a brief overview of files. Okay. We went through all of the block types and everything. Let's pop back into our main template section so I can show you guys where the template gallery lives, okay? So once you've got all your templates set up here, you can organize them into different folders, and you can super easily search for what you need based on what the file contains. Because all of the files in HoneyBook can do all of the things, you need to have these filters up at the top to be able to easily find, okay, where are my questionnaires? Okay, where are my questionnaires that include service blocks? Okay, I don't have any. Where are my services that contain invoices? Okay, I've just got that one that we were just looking at. So it's a really easy, quick way to get what you need to the top. You also can just quickly scroll through the thumbnails and view the titles. Make sure your naming conventions are clear enough so you can find what you need as well. Okay, and then of course folders help too. And then we've got our amazing template gallery that I promised you guys. Okay, tons of stuff in here. What all you guys are going to want to know is how to find photographer-specific content. So you're going to scroll down, click the photography box, and we can see we have 19 templates here that are photographer-specific that you can browse. Here's one of the examples we have in our template section. This is the one I was just using and showing you guys. So all of these are here for you to grab and play with. You can click in, you can scroll and check them out. You can do a quick save. That's just going to throw it into your template gallery so you can go back and use it later, explore it later if you want to continue to browse the template section, or you can go right into editing this template and plugging in your own imagery, plugging in your own contact information, your own scheduler, that kind of stuff. Okay, that is the intro to the template section. That's going to be the third thing you want to set up. First thing you're setting up, company settings. Right? We already went through that. The second thing you're going to set up is your scheduler here. And then the third page you're going to set up is templates. Ryan is saying my screen looks different. I don't see those options. Okay. So Ryan, you likely have not opted into Smart Files yet. So let me send this slide out for you guys. I'm also going to pin it to the top of the chat. Ryan, go ahead and click that. Anyone else who, their screen doesn't look like that, that is the link to take you through the process of opting into Smart Files. We've not forced everyone to migrate over to the new builder yet. So you probably just need to opt in and upgrade. This is not the only place you can do that. It's all over your account. So if you miss the chance to click this link or you're watching the recording later on, there are a bunch of places where you can upgrade in your account, including the home screen. Likely this little placeholder here says something different, and you should be able to opt into that experience. Okay, cool. We just went through all three of these, including setting up templates. And now we're going to move on to lead capturing. Moving on to lead capturing. Okay, so we went through how to set up your company settings, all this preliminary work. Now we're starting to get into the side of, okay, how do I communicate with my clients? What does that start to look like? The first step is getting your client information into the HoneyBook system. So how do you do that? What are your lead capturing options when it comes to the HoneyBook tools? Okay, so first off, we've got our lead capture section here. So this introduces us to everything. I'm only going to go through the contact form today because this is really your catch-all resource for getting your inquiries into the HoneyBook tool. Okay, so let's start with the contact form. This will essentially replace any contact form that you have on your website today and then some. Okay, so this contact form can not only live on your website, of course it can do that just like a normal contact form, but there's also this really handy direct link option, which can live as a standalone version of your landing page. So if we take a look, this can be your link in bio on Instagram. This could be something that you DM out to people. You can save this link as a note on your phone for when people text you inquiring, because one of our jobs as business owners, when our clients come to us, when our brand new inquiries come to us, is saying, hey, I'm the expert here. I'm the business owner. Welcome to my process. This is how I operate. I use HoneyBook to manage my business. So I need you to fill out this form so I can invite you into my process and get you the answers you need right away, rather than spending your days in your DMs, responding to people. They have no skin in the game, right? Invite them into your process. That's going to look super professional. It's going to keep you super organized. So you don't have that dreading feeling like, oh my gosh, should I respond to that DM? Get all your people in one place and invite them into that process. It's going to make your clients feel more taken care of too. And right, like I'm coming to you guys with the experience of working with hundreds of photographers, thousands of photographers, and as a client myself, I'll tell you 100% of the time, I feel better when I am in a professional environment communicating with a business owner who, is not just operating in Instagram DMs, but they have a client flow management tool like this that looks and feels super professional from the get. So what I'm trying to say is you're not going to lose clients or intimidate clients by asking them to quickly fill out a form so you can learn a little bit more about their needs before you answer their questions, right? Okay, so there's a couple different ways you can share it. Now talking about how to edit this. So when you go to set up your contact form, there are a couple different options. I've added some images up here. So other than adding questions, right? Of course, a contact form is going to contain questions. You can also add content. So that's how I added these images up here. You could have text next to an image. You could have two side by side, and you could have multiple too. So however you want to kind of visually set that up, maybe play around with the content options here so you can visually get it looking the way you want it to look. You also have this design tab over here, which is where you can control colors and fonts. So again, from a visual perspective, that section is going to help you out. I'm going to spend the majority of our time going through the question options here. So you have two options when you're adding questions. You can add custom questions where you're just kind of typing in willy-nilly, whatever you need to ask them. I want to encourage you guys all, when you're first setting up your contact form, to start with suggested questions. So it defaults to drop you off in custom. So I'm going to need you to click down to suggested. This is going to show you all of the smart questions that HoneyBook can ask of your clients on your behalf to pull that information into HoneyBook and then fill out things like contracts later on, the project details, add dates to your calendar, those different kinds of things. Okay. So the suggested questions here are actually tied to your project details tab inside of the project, which we'll get into in a couple of minutes. But this is really where those kind of smart fields are going to come into play. So I want to make sure you're using as many of these as pertain to your business as possible. We can see full name, email, the about question, project type. This is that question way back at the beginning when I had you guys set up company settings. I said, set up your project types first. This is why, because now when you go to set up your contact form, your project types will accurately reflect the type of sessions that you offer. So you can ask this question, what type of sessions or event are you hoping to book? And this dropdown is going to display those things. You can customize this question and say whatever you want to say, right? Because we talked about some of you guys are niche photographers. You offer only weddings, but you've got some different packages. So maybe this question for you then is going to say, what package are you most interested in? What package caught your eye? Something like that. And then your options would be the 4 packages that you offer. So you kind of know right off the get-go who you're dealing with and what they're interested in. So you can get them more specific answers and more specific help. Okay. We've got things like a preferred session date. So this is a great, what I've done here is I've linked this to the project date field, and this is a preferred session or event date. We've got an alternate session or event date. Again, I've put a little asterisk here, and then down at the bottom, I've added this kind of disclaimer text that says, this is not a guarantee of availability. This helps give an idea of the date you're looking for, because this is not your scheduler. This is not your scheduling link. This is not going to show your availability. This is strictly just going to pull up a calendar for them to choose a date. And you don't have to make these questions required. So maybe they don't have a date in mind. Maybe you want to include another little piece of content here that has disclaimer text that says, let us know a date. If you don't have one, feel free to skip to the next question or something like that. Okay. What attracted you to our style? How did you hear about us? This question is connected. It's one of those suggested question types. It's connected to lead source. This is going to pull into a report in your reporting section that will show you where all your leads are coming from, how many of them have booked, the value of those bookings. Huge bonus to include this. It's such a low calorie way to get an idea of where your leads are coming from and how valuable they are. So do include this suggested question. This one is connected to the about. So it's, hey, tell me more about your vision. Anything else you'd like us to know? This will pull into the about section. Do you have any questions for me? Adding that in. And then at the bottom, I've added these 2 text fields, right? So again, you do this. I'm seeing some questions come in. The way you add content is simply by toggling to this content bar here, and then you can add text. So down at the bottom, I've added the disclaimer text. I've made it a bit smaller, right? So you can adjust font size and things. And then I've got a bit here. This is just kind of best practice in terms of contact forms. Your client needs to know what's going to happen next. Okay, great. She sent me through, or they sent me through this process to submit the form, but how do I know they're going to get back to me? When am I going to hear from them? I'm a desperate, scared bride who just got engaged and I need all the help in the world, right? We're going to help them out. We're going to say, hey, once you submit this form, we'll reach out within 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever. Again, you're inviting them in, setting those expectations by inviting them into that process with you. Hey, once you submit this, I'll be in touch in 24 hours to get more information to you and availability to you and hear more about what you need. We really look forward to working with you. Now your client has done their part. You're getting the information you need. They've automatically added themselves to the HoneyBook system, which I'll show you in just a couple seconds here. And you have an idea of who they are, and they're like, okay, peace of mind, totally taken care of. Wow, this photographer totally has their stuff together. Okay. So again, you can publish this onto your website. So we've hit publish up there, and it's giving us the code we need and the instructions on the different websites that we can use. We can even click out to the Help Center to read a little bit more in depth about how to do that. And then we've got our direct link option as well. So we can copy this link, add it to our Instagram bio, save it as a note on our phone, whatever we need to do, so that this form is now going to act as a catch-all for our inquiries so that their information can get thrown into HoneyBook. Okay, we're getting tight on time, so I want to rush through, but still very thoroughly, eloquently go through these last pieces. The last piece we want to touch on here is projects and getting paid. Okay, so now we're really, these first three things really, company settings, scheduling, and setting up templates, that's all kind of the preliminary back-end operational stuff you need to get set up in your account before you start working with your clients. Now we've done the lead capture piece. Your contact form is ready to send out to your clients. So you can officially start using that now. You've put your contact form on your website. You've started sharing it on Instagram. Okay, but now your leads are coming into HoneyBook. What do? That's the next piece we're going to go through, understanding projects and getting paid in the system. Okay, so once your clients fill out that contact form, where does their information go, right? So we're going to come over here to the projects tab. Everything we did today is really that preliminary stuff. Again, you guys, you're probably not going to touch that after your initial setup. Where you're going to spend the bulk of your time as a HoneyBook user is right here on this projects tab, because this is where all of your clients live. This is where all of your client information is saved, and this is where you can view who's who and where they are at each given stage in your process. Okay, so this is giving you full visibility, bird's eye view into who you're working with, who's inquired, who's paid, who's in the editing stage, who still needs to receive their gallery. It's showing you all of that information, bird's eye view in one place. Amazing, right? Okay, so that kind of goes into what are projects. Projects are the shoots you're working on, the clients you're working with. That's essentially what they're called. Because we work with a plethora of different businesses who are not all photographers, they're not just called clients, right? So they're called projects in HoneyBook, but you guys know what that means to you. The way they get added, the way your client information gets added, again, the contact form is a great catch-all, but you can also manually add projects. So let's say there's someone sitting in your inbox today and you're like, I got to go to Mac's webinar before I know how to talk to this person. I know what to do. We're going to go through manually adding them in just a second so that you can see what to do there. But I want you guys to use the contact form as much as possible, again, just because that'll be that automatic process of adding those clients into the system so you don't have to manually do it every single time. So please, please, please use the contact form. It's going to make your life so much easier. Okay, really quickly, there are some things for you to know about this pipeline up here. That's what we call this. You can scroll through it. It's showing you all of the clients you're working with and what stage they fall into in your business, okay? Some of these stages are locked. So when I click this customize button, it's showing me my locked stages. But some of them I've added as custom stages. So you guys obviously have your editing stage. You need to deliver your gallery. Maybe you have prints that you like to sell, and then you need to send the USB and kind of that final like offboarding step there. So these are custom steps or stages rather that I've added in. You can add up to 10 custom stages. The other ones are locked. It explains what each of these steps are here and why they're locked as you hover over them, so you guys can go and read more. But essentially the reason those stages are locked is because they are tied to automatic job tracking. So what that means is once your inquiries are automatically added, HoneyBook is smart enough to recognize once you've reached out to them, it'll move them to the follow-up stage. Once you've sent a bookable file, it'll move them to the proposal stage. Once the client has signed that file, it'll move them to proposal signed. Once they've submitted their first payment, retainer paid. Once they've submitted second payment, you're in the planning stages. Okay, all the custom stages you're going to need to manually move your projects to because HoneyBook doesn't know, what triggers or actions move those projects to those stages, but it's super easy to do that. And you can even do it in a bulk format. Let's say all three of these guys I know are now in the editing stage. It's super easy to do that in a bulk setting as well. Okay, and of course you can archive as well. So once you're done with a job, archive it. So your pipeline is only showing you the active clients and the active shoots you're working on. Okay, let's go ahead and manually add a project. So when we go to add a project, it's asking us the project name. So let's say we're just going to use my shoot that I'm doing on Sunday as an example. Hugh's family shoot. This is a family session. The lead source, we'll say, was Instagram because I did originally DM her. And then the date is going to be Sunday. The time, we are meeting at 10 a.m. And this is just because I already know these details. But if I didn't, I could leave these pieces blank. All I need to know is the project name and the project type, really. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this. Right away, it's going to ask me who is the client, who's the participant here. So I'm going to go ahead and add my client's contact information. Probably will want to add the address here too, since this is a home shoot, but I don't have that information. So I'm going to go ahead and just wait till I get it later and go ahead and add my client. Okay, this is what it looks like inside of a project. So I've got all my participants up here at the top. Maybe this is the bride and I want to include the groom. Maybe this is the bride. I want to include the groom and the planner. You can have as many participants as you want. The only thing you need to note, you can even add a second shooter here. The only thing you need to note is that all of those participants will then be CC'd on all of your communication. Okay, so just know that if you're adding them as a participant, they're going to get access to everything, that everyone here can see everything basically. So just know that. This details tab here is going to show us all of the details that we've just added for the project. This is where those suggested questions come into play when we were talking about them in the contact form, right? So if your client submitted the contact form, this project is automatically created. All of these details are automatically added, and this project is already in your pipeline. So it's taking that manual step out of the process here, and it's collecting all of that information. So about the project, you can start to visualize where those different questions that we asked in the contact form are actually coming into play now that we're inside of the project. Okay, we've got our activity feed over here. This is where all of our client communications are going to live. So all of our emails back and forth, our whole thread of communication is going to be saved in one place. So no more having to dig through your email inbox to find that. It's all going to be saved here in chronological order, as well as different actions that your client has taken. So signing a contract, submitting payment, those kinds of things. All of your files you guys have exchanged will be saved here, and your payments tab will give you a glimpse at upcoming and already submitted payments. Okay, we can see right now the stage for this project is the inquiry stage, but this is where we could manually move it if we wanted to update that. I'm going to leave it as is for now. This is also where we can tie in automations or record tasks, anything like that. But for the most part, this is just a glimpse into what it's like now that I'm actually working with a client. So the most important piece here, how do you get paid? Let's say you've done all this preliminary work, and I know we're getting a little bit over time now, but you guys, this is the most crucial part, right? Like, we've done all the preliminary work. It's finally time to work with a client. It's finally time to get booked. What do you do? So it's time to share a file with them. This is where our templates come into play, you guys. So we're going to go create new, and we need to send them an invoice. Right away, what that's going to do is it's going to pull up all of our template options from the template gallery. So it's pulling in all those master templates that we already hopefully set up, right? Because that was step 3 of today's session. And it's going to filter for all of the ones that have invoices. So I can see right away that family photography proposal that we were checking out earlier is right up at the top. So it's got my service selection and invoice piece. This is actually a great template to use with a brand new client because it introduces them to my business, how I operate. It's going to give them the option to actually select the service that they want to move forward with and submit payment. So I actually don't have to adjust anything here at all. This pricing guide applies to 10 out of 10 of my clients who are inquiring about a family package or a family shoot. If this was a bride, maybe I would have a different bridal pricing guide I was sending over to them, right? That was a similar thing, but had my bridal services and had more bridal photography examples, things like that. Maybe go a little bit more in depth on the process, and I would probably have them sign a contract, right? So that's where maybe the difference would lie, but this template is good to send for this specific case. So I'm going to go ahead and share it out. Now I want to choose an email template. So let's say this is my brochure template. This one looks good. You can change the subject line, change whatever the email has to say, whatever you need it to do. I think this looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and send it off to the client. It's letting me know that it's sending it off, and then it's going to drop me off into a dashboard. Cute. Let's see the client progress. So it's going to drop me off into the dashboard where I can review how the client has interacted with this file, if at all. So I can see what pages they've viewed. Have they made service selections? Have they paid the invoice? I can send a reminder from here. I can see, how many pages they have viewed or interacted with inside of this file. And I can even go into editing this file. So let's say the client gets back to me and they're like, hey, none of those packages really fit what I'm looking for. I want to pay you $1 million. You're like, great, let me just go into that file. I'm going to edit it and put in my $1 million package so that you can go ahead and pay me for that. So you can have different versions of files as well, and then send it off to your client. So you can always change something that's already been sent to. Okay, and as promised, the automatic job tracking piece has come into play now. So the activity feed is showing me the email that I just sent. It's showing me a little brief view of the dashboard here where I can see my client's progress. And the stage in the pipeline has automatically updated to sent. Once they sign it, it'll update to signed. And once they submit payment, it'll go to retainer pay. Okay, how are we feeling? I know that was a ton of information. I'm going to pop into the Q&A section now, you guys, to start looking at some of these questions you submitted. I know a lot of that is the preliminary work, but once you get to the end of actually working with the client, you'll be inside of a project and all you have to do is send off the appropriate file. Okay, Sean says, can I add my own smart question that will also be usable in an email? Good question. So at the moment, you cannot add a smart question like on your own to the contact form that would then pull into an email. So the fields don't pull into emails. You can, however, have in a smart file a questionnaire that has those question fields pull into a contract. So if that's part of your process, the kind of workaround right now would be to have a page inside of a smart file where those questions are asked, and then have those question fields tied into the contract. If you were looking to collect contract field information, it sounds like you're wanting to pull it into an email, and that's not currently a feature, but something we're definitely aware of. So good question. Monica says, when will we be able to connect our scheduling calendar to our proposals? It's coming so soon, Monica. I promise you, it is like right around the corner. You can see the little coming soon banner when it's in there, and we don't say that unless it's actually coming soon. So I'm like crossing my fingers you get it ASAP. So yes, very, very soon. Absolutely. Brandon says, what's the most efficient way to let clients book their own consult calls and session dates during the contract and payment process? Great question. So I would say I would include, once scheduling is live in Smart Files, I would include a scheduling block in there so that they can choose the appropriate session time. You don't want to overwhelm your clients with too many CTAs in one file, right? So depending on what part of the process they're in, if they're in the earlier stages and you need to set up a consult call, maybe you're not sending a file for that. Rather, you're going to come in here and pull in an email template. And maybe that email template has a link to schedule. And you can insert your session link. So I actually wouldn't even go through this particular step that I'm doing. I would have your email template already set up with the scheduling link so that when you pull in the template, you can just send it out. That's probably how I would do a consult call to book sessions along with payment and contract. I would have that as part of the file, right? Okay. Tim says, when might it be possible for scheduling to then activate an automation? Someone books a mini session and it starts the process of sending a contract and invoice. Yeah, good question. So, right. Okay. So I promised you guys I would talk through kind of the mini session example. So the mini session example, what you guys are likely going to the kind of workaround right now that I would have you do is I would have you create a different contact form specifically for your mini sessions. And it's going to have, kind of the basic questions, maybe even just name and email, just super straightforward. And then what I would do is I would have that. So let's use this other contact form. So this is really simple, right? And maybe you would even delete this services question. What I would do is in the settings, I would assign the project type of mini session, which I don't have it here, but let's say wedding is it. Okay, so tie it to the mini session project type. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go to automations and you're going to build an automation that is also connected to that project type. And the steps in that automation workflow, the first one would be sending the smart file that has your scheduler and the ability to pay. So the moment that they fill out that contact form, they're also getting access to, well, first off, they're getting added to the HoneyBook pipeline, and they're getting sent a file that displays your availability for your mini sessions and has the ability to pay. And then from there, because I know Tim's question is around wanting to send a contract and invoice. So I would just say that the file itself should have a page for choosing the time, a page for signing and paying, or a page for payment, and then a page for signing a contract. So one file will do all of that. And then if you needed to have any follow-up steps where you're like, hey, I know my mini session date is, I know I'm sending this email out now and in 2 weeks is the mini session. So I want to say, I guess it would be tied to project date. So let's say 1 day before the project date, I want this email to go out to them saying, I'm so excited to see you tomorrow or whatever. Or maybe it's another file with like a style guide on like how they should be dressing for the mini shoot or something like that. So it's a file with an email, right? So that's kind of the workaround. I know I just threw so much information at you guys. We do have an automations webinar. If that is something you guys want to look into, I go through I literally spend an hour going through everything I just went through with you guys in like 2 minutes. Okay. So let me put that in the chat. And I know we're at time, you guys. I just popped into the chat the automation session that goes through in way more detail how to connect your project types to your contact form to an automation that will send files that you need it to send. So if you watch this last portion in comparison with that, you'll be able to build that mini session workaround as well. Okay. I know I didn't have too much time to go through questions, you guys. I went through a couple there, so hopefully that was helpful. You always have Concierge as a resource. You can always pop down here and chat in with them. They're here 7 days a week to help you guys out. Otherwise, I still appreciate you guys and your time. I'm sorry I went a little bit over and didn't have time for all those questions. Hopefully it was helpful. And I hope you have a great rest of your Thursday, y'all.